Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our last night of this health seminar. May you please stand for the opening prayer. All right, let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for all you do for us. Thank you for everything you continue to do for us. I pray and ask, as we're about to have our last night of this health seminar, please open our minds, open our hearts so that we may receive the message you have intended for us. In your name I pray, amen. Amen. Please remain standing.
Good evening, church. I'll be doing the AY Mission Aim Motto Pledge. So the AY Mission. To lead young people into a saving relationship with Jesus Christ and to help them embrace his call to discipleship. The AY Aim, the Adventist message to all the world in my generation. The AY motto, the love of Christ compels me. The AY pledge, loving the Lord Jesus, I promise to take an active part in the youth ministry of the church, doing what I can to help others and to finish the work of the gospel in all the world. You may be seated. Thank you.
Good afternoon, church. Today, I would like you to meet two wonderful people. Meet Garfield and Jewel Bailey. They started eating plant-based in 2021, and now they help others live healthier lives through their ministry called Nourishing and Flourishing. Auntie Jewel grew up learning about health and did a master in public health with a focus on health promotion. She now works at a national project to build the knowledge and the skills of health, settlement, and social service providers to better support mental health and newcomers to Canada. Auntie Jewel's biggest goal is to be a witness for Jesus through her work. Uncle Garfield has been interested in healing people for a long time. He worked as a massage therapist both in Guyana and in Canada. But after he switched to a plant-based diet, he was now inspired on how much it helped him and his mother. So now he dedicated to teaching others about healthy eating. He even earned a certificate in plant-based nutrition from the University of Cornell. Together, they have shared their message at several churches and they have led health programs online. They have been married for 26 years, praise God, and they have one grown son, Jude Garfield Jr. We invite them to deliver this afternoon's presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Daniel. So before Garfield delivers the presentation, two things need to happen. We're going to have a quiz, and then we're going to sing our lovely theme song. So is Joel here? Oh, Joel, we're ready for the quiz and the giveaways. So we have 6 questions and 6 books for giveaway. Bring the books, Joel, you'll need them.
Hello everyone, my name is Joel, and I'm going to be giving away free gifts. Who doesn't love free gifts, right? So we have these books here for giveaway. They're called Plant-Based Diet for Beginners by Ella Moralos. And the requirement to receive one of these books is to answer one of the next 6 questions that I'm going to give. Okay. So if you know the answer, just raise your hand and shout out and I guess I'll acknowledge you, and then you can give the answer. All right. So these questions, these first questions are from the presentation this morning. And so the first question is, what is essential to our body's proper functioning that is only found in plant foods? Could we have a hand over here first? Fiber. That is correct. Fiber is correct. All right, so there is your free gift. The next question is, can anyone name the blue zone where there is... I saw Auntie Opal's hand first. Do we need to ask the question first? I did. If they know, just give it. Okay. Well, they said if they answer before the question starts, that's okay too. If they raise their hand. So what was the answer you gave, Auntie Opal? Loma Linda. So I'll just finish reading the question. It says, name the blue zone where there is a large population of Seventh-day Adventists living well over 100 years. And the answer is Loma Linda. Congratulations.
I'll watch for the hands.
Huh?
I'll watch for the hands.
Okay. All right. So our next question is, Dennis P. Burkitt said societies that eat fiber-depleted foods produce small stools and build what? Okay, Javon says for Auntie Cynthia.
Big hospitals?
Yes, large hospitals is the correct answer. Congratulations. Next question. We have 3 more. How much longer do Adventist vegetarian men live for than the average American?
6 years.
6 years is incorrect. Okay. I'm going by, okay? What answer?
9 years.
Yeah, it's 9.5 years. It was close enough. Congratulations. Okay, 2 more questions. All right, listen carefully. When was leafy vegetables introduced into our diet? I see a hand from Auntie Dahlia. She's the first one I saw that hasn't received a book yet.
After the flood.
After the flood, that's not the answer I have in front of me, sorry. So who else? Yeah. Hand. We're just going by hands.
From creation.
From creation? That's also incorrect, sorry. Go to this side.
After the wilderness experience.
No, that's not the answer I have in front of me, sorry.
After the fall.
That is the correct answer, after the fall. Congratulations, well done. Okay, and then our last question, the last question will be answered in our presentation this evening, but we're still going to ask it to see who knows this answer. Okay, so the question is, for our final giveaway, we should be finished eating for a minimum of how many hours before bedtime? No. Let's just do something different.
2 to 4 hours?
Yeah, well, yeah, I'll give it. It's 3 hours, so like it's in the middle. I'll give it. Yeah. Well done, everybody. And I hope you continue to enjoy the presentation. We'll all continue to learn a lot. Thank you.
Could we stand for the theme song? Can we have the lyrics of the theme song? Do we have a musician in the house? Doesn't look like it. I guess I'm doing it a cappella again. Jesus is the answer for our health today. A brand new start to be in shape. Jesus is the way. Jesus is the answer for our health today. A brand new start to be in shape. Jesus is the way. Nutrition, air, and exercise, water, rest, and trust, sunlight and temperance are the elements of health. With Jesus as your perfect guide, you will follow all the steps. It will make you whole and cleanse your soul, and is precious than all wealth. Jesus is the answer for our health today. A brand new start to be in shape. Jesus is the way. Jesus is the answer for our health today. A brand new start to be in shape. Jesus is the way. Chorus one more time. Jesus is the answer for our health today. A brand new start to be in shape. Jesus is the way. Jesus is the answer for our health today. A brand new start to be in shape. Jesus is the way. Amen.
Good evening, everyone. As we come down to the close of today's Sabbath. So this evening's topic is lose weight with a full plate. And with this approach, gym membership is not a requirement. So why is being overweight not optimal for our health? What decides our weight? What do we eat? How to eat? What to eat? When to eat? And why do people want to lose weight? Now, there's much talk about weight loss, but why does society focus so much on this? Is it just aesthetics, or is there more than meets the eye? The reality is that weight loss has much more to do with health than aesthetics. There are questions of mobility, visceral fat. Visceral fat is the fat that we have around here. And there's a question also of cardiovascular disease. Being overweight or obese can have a serious impact on health. Carrying excess fat can lead to serious health consequences such as cardiovascular disease, mainly heart disease and stroke. You've got type 2 diabetes, musculoskeletal disorders. Overweight can lead to things like a lot of knee pain and that sort of thing, so it can really hinder your movement. And what's not widely known is that the risk of health problems starts when someone is only very slightly overweight. So we have the concept, something called tofu, not the thing that we eat. It means that you're thin on the outside, but you're fat on the inside because of where the fat is. For example, in places like our muscle and liver cells. So you can have people, we tend to judge people's health by how they look. So we see somebody who is skinny and you automatically figure, oh, yeah, they're good, right? So if, for example, you have a talk on health and you see your slim friend, you start telling, oh, we've got to talk about health Apple Creek, but, oh, you're okay, you don't really have to come. But really and truly, what's going on inside is what matters. So the good news is that overweight and obesity are both largely preventable and, of course, reversible. And the key to success is to achieve a weight balance or energy balance between calories consumed on one hand and calories used on the others. To reach this goal, people can limit their intake from total fat and shift fat consumption away from saturated fats to unsaturated fats. Increase consumption of fruits and vegetables as well as legumes, whole grains, and nuts, and limit their intake of sugars. And to increase calories used, people can boost their levels of physical activities so that you can do at least 30 minutes of regular exercise. Now, the 30 minutes of exercise doesn't have to be with you huffing and puffing over weights or running on a treadmill. You can go for a walk. And one of the things I used to tell people when I was a massage therapist is that one of the greatest exercises, and I used to tell this a lot to husbands, go for a walk with your wife. Go for a walk with your wife for half an hour. You get 2 things done. Well, 3 actually. You get exercise, you get benefits to your health, and you get to spend that quality time with your wife, which will keep you out of trouble. So what really decides weight? I spoke a little bit about it earlier, but we've heard about the weight loss equation and calories in versus calories out. We hear this all the time. And we've also heard that a calorie is a calorie is a calorie. I remember years ago there was a promotion from one of our soft drink companies where they said that all calories are equal. Drinking a bottle of our soft drinks, if it has the same amounts of calories as a banana, it's all good. But really and truly, calories are not born equal. Now, the answer, as I said, is no. If we look at the slide, we see that slice of cake that's making some people's mouth water is 300 calories. And next to it, we see a Granny Smith apple, and you've got cashews, and that's 300 calories too. What the cake is going to give you versus what the apple and cashews will give you are 2 completely different things. You get lots of nutrients from the apple and the cashews. You get some fat from the cashews, and there is a little bit of trace fat in the apple as well. But from the cake, all you'll likely get is lots of saturated fat and sugar. And more than likely it's made with refined flour, all of which don't do really anything much good for your body. It'll give you a burst of energy. You'll be able to bounce off the walls for a bit, but that isn't really going to help you. Using the apple and cashews, you get a slow release of energy because of the fiber in both of them, releasing what they've got slowly into your body. So, one thing to note is that many of the things that we like to eat may not like us back. So, what causes us to get a nice dopamine rush and makes our taste buds get really excited may not, as we showed in the example, be at all good for us. Now, the other aspect of calories is what our bodies do with them. To examine this, let's look at macronutrients. Now, there are macronutrients and micronutrients. The micronutrients are vitamins and minerals. When you hear people talk about exercise or weight loss, bodybuilding and that sort of thing, you hear them say, okay, what's our macros? How much of these macronutrients we need? And these are nutrients that we need in larger supply than the micronutrients. So let's look at fat, protein, and carbohydrates. And for this, we'll add fiber. A note on fiber. We're all told every day, several times a day, that we're protein deficient. This is the furthest thing from the truth. We really and truly are fiber deficient, especially here in the developed world. Macronutrients are those that your body uses for lots of different requirements. They meet all of your body needs and they help with all the systems and structures. And what your body does when there is an excess of these macros, it tries to store it as fat. Because if you don't move it, being your body, you will not lose it. You know the saying, if you, what's it? Yes, if you don't use it, you lose it. Not so with calories. If you don't use it, you don't lose it. You keep it, and it goes somewhere. And especially as we get past 40, it tends to go in the wrong place. So let's look at fat. Fat is the easiest macronutrient to store for future needs because it's already in an easily absorbable form. And that's why the body stores fat. Because tomorrow we might not have food to eat. And you find that if we have irregular schedules in terms of eating, the body is going to store more fat because it doesn't know when you're going to feed it again. If I'm very busy and I have a cup of coffee or tea before I leave the house in the morning, and then I work all day and I don't have time to eat, when I eat at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, when I finally remember because my stomach is gnawing at me, what my body is going to do is hold on to as much of that as it can and convert as much of it can to fat, so that if I do the same thing tomorrow, it has some reserves to rely on. So let's look at carbohydrates. Once the body is functioning normally, carbohydrates are converted into glucose and used for immediate energy. There are also some carbohydrates that are stored by the body as glycogen. This is stored in the liver and muscle cells. That's so that you have energy to use. For example, when you wake up in the morning, you've been fasting all night because you've been sleeping for 7 to 9 hours. And you wake up in the morning and you can do quite a lot. You can actually, many people go to the gym and have a workout. There are times when we have lots of things to do in the morning. We can get up and have our devotion and so on. And that's when we use our glycogen. If you are working out or you're doing lots of activities for a long period of time, you can use up your glycogen. And that's when your body will start looking at sources of fat to burn. Glucose can be turned into fat. There is a school of thought that if we eat carbs, we're going to get fat. It is potentially true. Even if I eat complex carbohydrates, which is the whole food, and I lay around and I watch Netflix all day, I'm going to put on weight because I'm not doing anything with these calories. So even though the body does not like to store carbohydrates because it has to use so much energy to convert it, it will have to because I'm not giving it a choice. But what the body does when you have excess carbs in your body or excess glucose, it tries to get you to burn them off. You'll see people sitting down and shaking the leg and that sort of thing. You'll see children when you give them, and it's easily seen when you give a child an ice cream cone or a piece of that cake that we had in the last slide. They'll be running all around the church because their bodies are just trying to burn off the excess energy rather than have to do the work to store it. So, protein. Protein is used in many ways in the body. Just about everything that has to be built, repaired, or made in the body requires protein. Excess protein tends to be excreted if conditions are right. So that's if we have enough fiber and water in our bodies. In cases where carbohydrates are low and there's insufficient glycogen, protein can be converted into glucose. Now on to the other very important macro, fiber. Fiber has many uses in the body. The best known is for taking out the trash. Fiber in conjunction with water makes bowel movements easy and lessens the likelihood of colon cancer and many other intestinal disorders. Fiber also is used to escort toxins out of the body and even aids in the removal of excess estrogen. Fiber feeds the microbes in our gut, and they reward us with many good products to help with our health, which includes short-chain fatty acids. Now, you've heard about us having to get essential fatty acids. Anything that's said to be essential, like the amino acids that we don't produce, are things we do not produce. The two fatty acids that we need, the fat that we need, are omega-3s and omega-6s. Omega-6s are very easy to come by. They're in just about everything. Omega-3s are a little more difficult to come by. And if we have a great excess of omega-6 fatty acids in our diet, what happens is that they go through the same pathway to be converted into 3 or 6, the building blocks for these acids. And that pathway prefers omega-6. So if we use a lot of fried foods, a lot of animal products, a lot of what I call garbage, which is things like muffins and donuts, things with empty carbs, those things that you pick up at the shop when you're passing on your way to work and you grab them for breakfast and that sort of thing. One of the other things that fiber does, and this is when we're eating something like a fruit. You'll hear lots of people say, oh, but fruits are just about as equal as sugar. There's one fellow who mistakenly who became a medical doctor and is now abusing his privilege, who will tell you that eating an apple is the same as eating a chocolate bar, which is completely erroneous. An apple has fiber, regardless of how sweet it is. And what the fiber does, it holds on to the nutrients, including the sugar, and as it goes into your system, it releases it slowly. If you eat a donut, on the other hand, in addition to all the fat that's there, because a donut basically is a sponge that sucks up all the fat that's been fried in, but the refined flour that's in that donut gets released almost immediately into your system. There's amylase being produced in our mouth, and that breaks down carbohydrates. And the simpler the carbohydrates are, the faster that will break down. That will hit your system, give you a sugar spike, which will lead to a sugar slump, which means that you need to pick up a couple of hours later. And you remember, this is what the fiber and whole foods do. They cause the slower release in glucose, which I was just talking about. and other nutrients as the food goes through our system, rather than releasing everything early like it would with something like a donut. So remember Dr. Burkett from this morning, who said that if we produce large stools, we'll have small hospitals, and if we produce small stools, we'll have large hospitals. So this is one of the big functions of fiber. Fiber really does do a lot to keep us healthy. And of course, this controls our weight, because the fiber in the food we eat, most of it goes through to feed the gut bacteria. So if you eat a pound of food that's rich in fiber, you're really only getting maybe 3/4 of that pound of food or a little more going to actually provide nutrients and calories for your system. The rest goes down. The other thing that fiber does, and somebody will probably ask this question later, is when it gets down into the colon, the message is sent up to the brain that, okay, we've got food in here, we're okay. It releases something called GLP-1, right? So fiber is a GLP-1 agonist. That's the agonist that God gave us. Man is coming with lots of additional GLP agonists. So now we've looked at all the macros and what they do in our bodies, and we've seen that all calories are not created equal. Let's dive a bit more into how and why calories affect our weight. We can agree that excessive calorie intake will lead to weight gain, but there are also other factors that affect weight gain, even in cases where calories are not necessarily excessive. So we look at the how, when, why, and where we eat. How we eat can impact whether we gain weight or we lose it. And if you look at the slide, you'll see you are what you eat. And you notice those two figures, and you notice what's in the stouter fellow and what's in the slimmer fellow. So what you eat really does determine how you are, who you are, and to a great degree, even how your brain operates. Food has an effect on our mental health too. So how we eat can impact whether we gain weight or lose it. If we pay attention to our food while we eat and properly chew our food, yes, we can affect our digestion positively. We can better absorb the nutrients that we get from our food, and this helps us to not overeat and cut down on snacking. Why that is so is because when we eat, the vagus nerve, which goes from our gut to our brain, takes about 20 minutes to get the message to our brain that, okay, we're full here. Because in our stomachs we have stretch receptors, and that's not a good role of fiber and water. And so the message gets up to our brain. You might notice sometimes you eat, and you're finished eating, you still feel like you could have something else. But you putter around and do a couple of other things, or you're chatting with your friend, and after a couple of minutes, oh, I feel full. Okay. I won't go for that extra donut anymore. I'll just go on and do the other things I've got to do. And one thing that's really important to remember, we have to chew our food properly. I know lots of times we're eating, we're in a hurry, but chewing our food is really important because you want to send the food well chewed down into your stomach. While there is very strong acid in our stomachs don't have teeth, right? So now the chewing can be done down here. It's got to be done here. And as we mix the food in our mouth, there are enzymes in our saliva that help with digestion as well. So when we eat can also determine what is stored and what is used for energy. For example, many people may dash out in the morning and you drink maybe a cup of tea because you're in a hurry to go catch the GO train, and just outside your office, you stop in at your favorite coffee shop, you grab a hot chocolate and some of the nice things that's in the case there, that's soft and easily digestible and really tastes nice and sweet. You dash into work, you have that for your breakfast, and at 10 o'clock you've got to go for a pick-me-upper because you've had your spike and your drop. And so at 10 o'clock you have a snack. Then at lunch you might have your lunch at your desk because you're really busy, you've got to get these projects out. Or you might be a person who thinks that if you leave your desk, the whole office is going to fall apart. And so then you're going home in the afternoon, and now you're hungry. So you're driving your car or you're sitting on the GO train and your stomach's telling you all sorts of evil things. And you're tired because you've worked all day, your glycogen is depleted now because you didn't really put anything back, and you're thinking, what do I do now? I don't feel like going home to face the fire. I don't have anything in the fridge I can take up and heat up. So you do one of two things. You stop at the store nearby, or, and I actually heard a fellow do this on the bus once, you call the pizza delivery people and arrange to have a pizza delivered about 5 minutes after the time you're supposed to get home. And of course you're hungry now, so you're just thinking, I really want to eat. So your pizza is a double cheese pizza. Well, I think the folks in here won't have pepperoni on your pizza, but you'll have chicken and whatever else you like. And then you'll get home and you'll eat that pizza, and you'll probably turn on TV or go to Netflix or whatever. And you sit there after you've eaten your pizza, you're happy, you have your bath, you go straight to bed. And you might get to bed with your stomach full, which is not at all good. But either way, even if you wait 3 hours after you've eaten that pizza to go to bed, you have just ingested quite a lot of calories and you've done nothing with them. You haven't done any great studies, so your brain uses up some of the energy. You haven't gone for a 2-hour walk or anything of that sort. You've basically eaten and gotten to bed. That is going to be stored. So this pattern of nutrient intake can easily lead to weight gain, and even if the amount of calories you take in. So let's say your pizza is 1,000 calories. And over the day, you've only eaten 500 calories because you're so busy. So you've only had a total of 1,500 calories. On average, an adult runs on somewhere around 2,000 calories a day. So you'll say, I have a deficit. If I eat like this, technically I should be losing weight. But the load of your calories comes at the end of the day when you do nothing with them. And so your body is forced to store. If you did it the other way around, not telling anyone to eat pizza, but if you had the big meal at the beginning of the day, and then you kept going smaller and smaller through the day, and you had the same 1,500 calories, it would have the impact that you wanted. So we've all heard of this that you're seeing on the screen: eat breakfast like a king, lunch like a prince, and dinner like a pauper. And some of you might know Barbara O'Neill. She says when people ask her, because, okay, we can imagine what a king eats and a prince, but what does a pauper eat? And she says very often paupers eat nothing. And that's a good thing to remember, because if we eat nothing after we eat lunch, let's say we finish eating lunch at 2, and this is not the lunch that you grab when you're at your desk and you just hurriedly push something in your mouth. This is a proper lunch. You've had a good breakfast before you leave, and ideally when you eat, you should feel full. You shouldn't eat and still be feeling hungry. You must be at least satisfied. Because if you're not, then you're going to go for snacks. So this is looking at distracted eating. When we eat when we're distracted, we can consume a lot of extra calories. So in front of the TV, when we are working, when we're doing things that really absorb our attention. Eating, on the other hand, with family and friends is a good thing. You are likely to end up eating a little less because you're doing a lot of talking while you're eating. So less is going in, maybe more is coming out. And plus, it is a healthier mental atmosphere, and you will tend to be chewing your food better and so on. We tend also, when we eat as families, to do at least some of the cooking some of the time. We need to really eat for nourishment and, as I said, satiation. So that gives us better weight control, because we're not eating 10 minutes later or an hour later on demand, because even healthy snacks can go against us. A lot of people will use nuts as their healthy snack. It is a good snack. And nuts we should have a handful of nuts a day. And ideally not a handful like this. It should be a handful like this. Nuts are very nutritious, but too many nuts can give us too many extra calories. And so if we have nuts in our glove compartment and we're driving down the street and we're sitting in traffic because it's rush hour in Toronto, or worse, we're on the DVP, and you take all those nuts, you probably finish the whole bag before your car moves one corner. And you won't be thinking about those calories. You'll go home and you'll still want to eat your dinner, if you eat dinner. So, why do we eat? Many people eat for pleasure. Some people eat for consolation, or because they're lonely or alone. Or there are also people who eat to numb emotional pains. When we eat for these reasons, weight gain tends to be the consequence, because we eat a lot more than we would have wanted to eat. Now, ideally, we should be eating for nourishment and satiation. And this more intentional reason for eating leads to better weight control. So one of the first reasons that we diet, because, every so often you'll hear people say, oh, I'm on a diet, right? And what does diet tend to mean? It tends to mean I'm doing this thing, carrying this eating pattern for a short period of time. So I am on a 6 weeks diet. I'm dieting for 2 weeks. I'm doing a Daniel fast. Lots of people have heard that, because lots of people believe that the only time that Daniel actually ate plant foods and drank water was those 10 days. Daniel was doing this long before and continued doing it through all his long years. And if you note, the Bible spoke about Daniel living through, I think it was 3 kingdoms. He died at a ripe old age. He was still, when he was old, able to walk without assistance into the banquet hall when Nebuchadnezzar's grandson was drinking from the vessels that were taken from the temple in Jerusalem, and interpret to him what the writing on the wall was. His voice was still strong enough. He still had the fortitude to tell the king, you know what, I don't want your gifts, but I'll tell you what God was telling you. And that, of course, is what we want from life. Now, go for the healthy choice. What has been found is that there's a doctor named Barbara Rolls. And Dr. Barbara Rolls has dedicated quite a lot of her life to looking at what people eat, how they eat, and why they eat. And so she has come up with the concept of calorie density. Now, every kind of food has a certain amount of calories in it. And for ease of imagining or thinking about these foods, we can use calories per pound of food. Because if I tell you calories per gram of food, what's a gram? What's even an ounce? But we can sort of get an idea when we say a pound. So if you look at this picture in the slide, you see there's a choice. There's a choice to go for things in the standard American diet, or there's a choice to eat the healthy plants. In the healthy plants, you have a lot more nutrients and a lot less calories. In the things that are contained in the standard American diet or the SAD diet, you'll get tons of calories, a lot of them will be empty. By the way, sugar has a lot of calories. And if we drink whatever is the flavor of sugar water that we might like, we take in a lot of calories and it's not necessarily counted. We still go and we eat a solid meal after that. So, what Barbara Rolls found is that everyone eats roughly 3 to 5 pounds of food per day, regardless of what that is. Whether you're eating whole plant foods, whether you're eating garbage, whether you're eating burgers and pizzas, whether you're eating balanced diets where you have your carbohydrates and your proteins and your fats all well lined up and so on, you eat between 3 and 5 pounds. What is important is how you use this 3 to 5 pounds. In the same way that we decide what we do with our how we decide what we do with our money, what we're going to spend it on, is the same way we can decide what we do with the calories that we have to take in. This is just a chart showing lots of foods and the amount of calories that you find in them. And now I'll go to a more detailed chart that looks at this. And calorie density is really the key to weight loss. And I'd say the key to sustainable weight loss and to good health. Now I'll turn away from you for a second because it's easier for me to read. Now when we look at, we start from the bottom. In non-starchy vegetables, so that's your broccoli, kale, and so on, they can actually start at 60 calories per pound when you get to things like the lettuces. But to average out, we start at 150 calories per pound of leafy and non-starchy vegetables. Fruit has 250 to 300 calories per pound. Oats, you've got 400 calories per pound, and we go up. The potatoes, 500. Whole grains, well, 450. Whole grains around 500. Beans and legumes around 6. Then we go into the foods that are higher in calories. You see meat and dairy coming in at about 800 calories, cheese and ice cream at 1400, bread and pastries, which is something we don't think about when you think about being high calorie, comes in at around 1500 calories a pound. And this is because we have ground up this flour and we've put a lot of this and packed it into a small area. Whenever you reduce something like that, and you'll hear some weight loss experts say that smoothies aren't necessarily the best of things, but that depends on what you put into your smoothies, right? I can make a smoothie if I do get time to lift weights that has tofu in it and nuts and so on, because I need to increase my calories so that I can feed and put on more muscles. Or I can have a green smoothie which is very low in calories but packs a ton of nutrients. And you see where cakes, donuts, and pastries are at 2,700 calories. So they're not just bad for you in terms of what they have in it. They've got a lot of calories. And we go all the way up to oil. You remember this morning I said that Dr. Esselstyn had his clients with severe heart disease remove oil from their diets, so they stopped frying things and so on. That's because oil has 4,000 calories per pound. Now, I know you're looking at me and thinking, but Garfield, I'm not going to drink a pound of oil. But take a tablespoon of oil. A tablespoon of oil has 120 calories. And we don't fry or cook our food with 1 tablespoon of oil. I can do it. I learned how to do it long before I learned to cook without oil. And yes, cooking without oil is easy. Someday I hope to show you all. But the thing is that 1 tablespoon of oil is 120 calories. We'll use at least, if we're exercising restraint, because normally when we're cooking our food, so we cut up our onions and so on, and we're about to saute them, and we take the bottle of oil and we do this, right? We don't pour it into a tablespoon or a teaspoon and see how much we're using, so we can take in quite a lot. And that oil just gets absorbed into your food. When it goes into your stomach, it's not recorded as anything. It doesn't come in with any fiber or so. The rest of your food might be recorded because it has more bulk. The oil just goes and disappears, and then it gets into your system. It can go into your muscle cells, or it can just go into your fat cells. But it's excess calories that you are going to store. This is a calorie density chart that was made popular by Chef AG. And what she shows in this chart is that you see that red line down there, which comes just before avocados. Avocados and nuts and seeds are good, but they're high calorie. And so if you're looking at weight loss, you want to eat less of them because, again, you're watching your calories. But anything that's to the left of that red line, you can eat. You can eat and have your fill and be happy and comfortable, and you will lose weight. Scientists have found that in populations where weight gain is not an issue, where you don't have a lot of people with excess fat and obesity, the average meal is about 600 calories in the meal. So even if we eat 3 meals at 600 calories and we do our normal activities of daily living, especially for calories compact with fiber, we are going to experience either weight maintenance or weight loss. And these are 5 stomachs, and this shows graphically what calorie density looks like. You see the stomach with oil has hardly anything, and each of these stomachs has 500 calories in them. The stomach with cheese has something, but it's not that much. Meat is a little more, and you start seeing something where you get the beans and potatoes and so on. And then when you go to the vegetables, you really get a lot of bulk in that. So if you remember the food guide, half of your plate is fruits and vegetables. If we eat in that manner, then we're going to have a lower calorie count. Now, we have to be aware of liquid calories. As I was saying earlier, when we drink things, it doesn't really get recorded. But in this chart, you'll see on the left, yes, you've got meals that will give you for breakfast, lunch, and dinner a total of 2,300 calories. On the right, you've got basically the same meals, which will give you 1,800 calories. The difference there is that on the left, each of those meals come with a beverage that is sweetened. And the calories from the sugar is what carries up the number of calories. On the right, the beverages are unsweetened. So you see it's 0 calories for everything, all of the beverages on the right. And you see calorie counts, 160 calories in the orange juice, 120 calories in the soft drink, 220 calories in the healthy iced tea. And so it really adds up. So we've got to live on whole foods, and if we go to whole plant foods, it's better. Now, as we start to increase the amount of plant foods, whole plant foods that we have in our diet, we will naturally decrease the amount of animal products that we have in our diet. Because, for example, when I speak with people, I tell them to, when it's for health and weight loss, I ask them to drink green smoothies. Green smoothies have a lot of fiber. And generally it's, well, what I tend to drink, because it's easy, I put spinach and kale in my smoothies because I can get both of them already washed and bagged at Walmart. And that has a lot of fiber, but the amount of calories is also very low. It's filling, I get nutrition from it, and when we eat anything, there is an element in our gut that sort of assays what we eat. It checks it out to see if it has nutrients. If you don't have sufficient nutrients, what happens is that your brain gets the message that I need more of whatever it is. But the brain can't tell you to go eat an orange to get vitamin C. The brain will just tell you you're hungry. So you've just gone to your favorite burger joint and you've eaten a nice double cheeseburger and you've had a 40-ounce drink with it. And an hour and a half later, your stomach is grumbling again. Not because you weren't packed with all of that stuff you put into it, but because your brain has gotten the message, there's nothing here, I need nutrients, so I need food. And so this will cause a lot of overeating. So, to sum it all up, we must think of calorie density as the most important driver pertaining to weight loss. The more whole plant foods we eat, the better for us. And just to note, we should, other than the other damaging effects of things like salt and sugar, we should try to cut down those as much as possible because they signal the brain to want more. And you can do a simple experiment when you go home. Take 2 cups of rice, or 2 half cups of rice, if you will. You boil one in water and you add salt to it. You boil the other in water with no salt. You eat from the one with salt today and you eat from the one without salt tomorrow. You are going to find that you're going to eat more of the rice that has salt than the one without, because it sends a message to your brain, this is really nice, I want to eat more of this, right? And of course, salt, while we do need sodium, we get a lot of excess sodium. So now we're going to be open for questions, and you can ask me anything. Can we have a roving mic? Evie, can we, sorry. Yes, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just wondering about food combinations. Would you recommend certain foods not to be eaten together?
You're talking about things like mixing fruits and your food or drinking liquids while you're eating?
Yeah, and I've heard advice not to mix vegetables and fruits in the same meal.
It makes sense. It's good advice. It's because fruit digests pretty quickly. And so if you mix fruit with anything else, what happens is that you'll end up with fermentation because they're both going to go down there. The fruit is ready to go, but the, let's say, vegetables are taking a little longer to digest. So the fruit is ready and it'll start fermenting in your stomach before it is digested. And that's the major reason. I know there is also, it's said that we shouldn't eat melons with other fruits. Melons should be digested first and then we move on. But mainly it has to do with how rapidly it digests through our system. So yes, for our digestive health, it would be best not to do that. I know a lot of people won't like me after this, but lots of people use fruit as a dessert. It's not the best dessert unless it's taken maybe 2 hours after you've had your main meal because of the same reason. So you have a good meal and then you put fruit on top of there. The fruit is ready to be digested and the rest of your meal is taking a long time. You're going to have fermentation there, which if we continue doing this down the road, it'll cause problems. Last thing on that, drinking water while we're eating or fruit juices or any kind of juice, regardless of how healthy it is. Remember there's stomach acid that's supposed to help digest our food. When we drink liquids with our food as we're eating, it dilutes that stomach acid, which slows everything down, which is bad for our digestive process. I think there was a hand. Yes, Phil. I nearly said Dr. Phil.
Yeah, I heard you mention that fiber is to eliminate waste in your body.
Yes.
It helps. Oh, I was listening to a doctor and he said that the kidney, right, function is to eliminate toxin from the body. What's the difference?
Okay, the kidney, everything is processed through the kidneys. And that's one of the reasons why eating excess amounts of, and I'm coming back to fiber, animal protein is bad. Because too much animal protein being processed through the kidney causes a lot of stress on the kidney and therefore leads to problems. But yes, everything goes through the kidneys. But we have our digestive system. And so to pass out of our intestines, that's where we need fiber and bulk. Because without that, I was actually in a washroom once. And the gents' washroom, you've got a lot of stalls, and then you've got toilets, actual toilets you can go into and sit. And I heard somebody inside, well, it has to be a male, grunting and groaning. And after a couple of seconds, this fellow said, "Jesus Christ." And I thought to myself, this is good. He's having a conversion experience in here. But really and truly, I'm sure it's just because he hasn't had any or enough fiber in his diet. So he didn't have the bulk and so on to help move it through. Okay. Okay, we have one more question, and then I'll turn over to Jewel.
So on the point of food combination, and in particular, like preparing a smoothie, a green smoothie, to make it more palatable and more tasting for persons who are not so fond of it, what do you suggest?
I know where you're going, Cynthia. Yes, we do sprinkle a bit of fruit in it, but okay. I'm thinking about a green smoothie. When we make green smoothies, we'll pack that blender with spinach and kale, and then we'll put a handful of, we use frozen mangoes and pineapples on top. Now that goes in there and it spins. There's a little bit, it changes the flavor. One of the things with the smoothie is that the blender kind of pre-digests your food. So when it gets in there, you don't have quite the same issues with fermentation and so on as you would have if I sat down and I ate a bowl of spinach and I put into that bowl of spinach some mango and some pineapple. That answers your question? Okay.
All right, thank you so much, Garfield. So this is our presentation, and then we have, we're gonna hear from two of our members, a short presentation on habits, and then we're gonna do an activity. So I hope you stay with me. Now, there are two key ingredients of weight management, and they are what we eat and when we eat. So we're now going to speak with two members of our congregation about how they manage these two areas. So we have Perry Rose. Didn't I see Perry? Yes. So, yes, Perry. Come on down, Perry. So we have Perry Rose, who will tell us about when she eats. Okay. I think Perry is such a disciplined person. And so, Perry, could you briefly explain what diet you follow and how long you've been following this diet?
Okay, good evening, everyone. I follow a vegetarian diet primarily. I've been doing that for about 9 years. I say primarily because I will occasionally eat fish, which is like once a month or even less than that, but very rare.
And now, okay. So, what time do you stop eating, and what is your strong why for doing this? So, like, during the week, and so, what time do you stop eating?
Okay, so after work, I cook dinner, and then we eat dinner between 5 and 6. And after dinner, that's it for me. I didn't consciously start out not eating after dinner. In my teens and my 20s, I could eat anything at any time. But I found as I got older, eating late at night, it would bother my stomach. Okay. So I just generally moved away. I prefer not to eat after dinner. So after 6, I try not to eat anything else. And after I had my kids, it was the same thing. I never gave them like a bedtime snack or anything like that. I just generally avoided it. I discourage it, although I do see sometimes they'll order Uber Eats coming at 11 o'clock at night, but they know how I feel about that. But I just generally, I understand that, eating late at night, what it causes, what it does to the body. I know it's your body is not as efficient burning calories when you're less active and you're sleeping. So you want to eat earlier in the day.
Right. Do you get hungry at night? And what do you do when this occurs? Like a pang of hunger comes on. What do you do?
For me, I don't really get hungry because dinner, I try to make sure is very, I'm satiated after dinner, that it's a balanced meal. I feel full enough that I don't want to snack. However, if for whatever reason I do feel hungry, I will have tea. I'm not a big tea drinker, but I'll have a tea or even water. I always keep water beside my bed, and I will just drink something.
Okay. I didn't have this question in, but there's also the social side of eating. So, I'm trying to do the stop eating at 6 too. So, when we go out, you go to functions, you go with friends, you can be a party pooper and not eat. So, how do you manage that piece?
I am not going to be so rigid. I think that I'm flexible. So if we're traveling or we're out with friends or it's a Saturday night, I will have something. But my general daily routine is after dinner to not eat. And if I have a choice to eat earlier, I would prefer to eat earlier. But I'm not going to be so hard fast that I'm not going to socialize with people because I need to stop eating at a certain time. So I think there should be some flexibility.
Yeah, but it's what we do when we have control.
Exactly.
And, during the week.
Right.
So what advice would you give to someone like me who wants to stop eating at a certain time? You want to finish eating and be done.
I think consistency is important. I think that if you eat the same time every day, it helps. It's not the end all, but it helps because if one day you're eating breakfast at 9, lunch at 1, and the next day at dinner at 6, but the next day you're eating breakfast at 12, and you want to eat at 4, and then you want to have dinner at, 8 o'clock. Like that inconsistency will cause you to want to snack in between. So I think just having that consistent routine of having your meals at the same time, it helps to eliminate that need to want to eat all over the place.
Yeah, thank you so much, Perry. And I saw a quote that says, consistency is underrated.
Yes.
Yeah, but thank you so much. Thank you. All right, we want to talk to Ivis. Ivis, So Ivis is going to talk about what she eats. And would you agree with me, Ivis is getting younger? Carmen, do you agree? She's your friend. She's getting younger. So Ivis, can you briefly explain how you became plant-based and how long you have been following this lifestyle? Here, Ivis.
Hello, everyone. Now you can hear me. Okay, so I grew up around vegetarianism, which my mother was. So, but then of course I fall off the wagon and did my own thing. So about 7 years ago, I decided to get a little more serious about my eating. So I went more on a vegetarian diet, where I was still having eggs and cheese, for instance. But I never had milk because I'm lactose intolerant, so I use almond milk anyways. So I did that for a period of time, and then when I went to my doctor, when I turned 60, my doctor said, "Oh, your blood pressure is kind of high," and I thought, why? It was fine all these years. He says, "Well, you're getting older." I said, "No, I don't buy into that." So he says, "Well, you know, it's hereditary and so on." And of course, I'm telling him, "No, it's not hereditary. I'm just doing what my mother and my grandmother used to do. I eat the same things and cook the same way, so that's what's hereditary." But he says, "Well, you know, you'd have to go on medication." I said, "No, I don't want to go on medication." So he says, "Well, okay." I said, "Give me some time, and then I'll come back and do another test." So I went off and I decided then I'm gonna go now to a vegan diet. So that's when I've kind of left the vegetarian thing. I'm doing more vegan, no meat, no fish and things like that. And then I started walking. So I was walking for a period of about 6 months. I walked a good hour and a half a day, and all of a sudden, I lost all this weight. I lost maybe 20 pounds.
Just by walking?
Yeah. I wasn't doing the gym as yet. So I did the walking, and I went back to the doctor only to find out. He says, "Well, you know, it's down a little, but you should probably go on the medication." So, of course, talking to my sister, she says, "Just take the medication and still do what you're doing." And then, you know, because she's a nurse, of course, and she's going to push that. So I said, "Okay, I'll take the medication." So for me, basically, it was more about health. I wanted to be healthy as I get older, and I did not want to be full of pain here and there, or can't move around, or get in, as they say, get in the bathtub or get out of the bathtub, or you needed help for things. So I just wanted to remain independent. So that was my big why.
Okay, good. How we eat on the weekday and how we eat on weekends, it's totally different. So what would you have on a weekday? You know, like just give us a sample of what you'd have on a weekday and what you'd have on a weekend.
Yeah, well, I eat pretty much the same every day. Sabbath is my splurge day.
Your splurge day. Yeah, we go all out on Sabbaths.
On Sabbath, I will eat, you know, other things, because as you say, you know, we're at church and there's a lunch or whatever. And as Perry say, I don't want to be too rigid. I want it to be a lifestyle that I can maintain. Mainly from Sunday to Friday, I eat 2 meals a day.
Okay.
That's where I'm at pretty much. I eat 2 meals a day, so I'll eat in the morning, and I'm very big on, I do like overnight oats with chia seeds, and I find that can hold me for hours. So I'll, for instance, first thing in the morning, I'll have a juice. So I'm making a juice now that is blood pressure a kind of juice that helps with blood pressure, which is just beets and apple and ginger and some other stuff. And I have that in the morning, first thing, and then I'll have 3 fruits. And after the 3 fruits, I'll have my overnight oats, and I'll put some blueberries in that as well. And once I'm finished with the overnight oats, then I'll have some nuts with a handful of pumpkin seeds. And by the time I finish eating all of that, that's it. I'm not hungry again until I don't have lunch basically any day. So my next meal would be in the evening, about, if I'm home, 4 or 5. But if I'm not home or out, I don't beat up myself if I don't finish eating by, 4 or 5 o'clock. Because sometimes I might get home at 6, but it's still only the 2 meals I'm having for the day.
Okay, and our weight is always fluctuating. We talk about 80% of weight management is what we eat. Now, how do you manage to keep your weight under control?
Well, the beautiful thing I've noticed about it is since I lost the weight, and as I said, I was walking. I didn't do much walking this year, but I did join the gym. So I believe in still exercising.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I just find that it's, one sec, I did make a note here as to what I do. So I noticed, as I said, that my weight just seems to stay the same now. I don't have to try anymore. I kind of fluctuate within a 5-pound range, but I never go above that or below that. And I think that's because of the plant-based lifestyle. I would not say I'm 100% plant-based. I'd say I'm 90% plant-based because, from time to time, say for instance, I didn't prepare something ahead, I would have grillers or a fry pat or something like that. Or even sometimes I might have a patty, a vegetable patty or something like that. So that's not plant-based. But I noticed that I don't have to worry about the weight thing anymore. And I do go to the gym. I try to get there about 3-4 times a week. Sometimes I'm very good at going for about 3-4 weeks straight, and then, I get busy and I don't go as often, but I still will jump back on the wagon and just go again.
Yeah, and that's the key with anything. It's even if you can't do it, like when you can, just start doing it again. Yeah. So, Ivis, thank you so much for sharing your secret.
Just one quick thing I want to say, that I try to do the master cleanse. I do that at least once or twice a year if I can.
Could you tell us quickly what is the master cleanse?
Oh, the master cleanse is where it's a mixture of maple syrup, lemon juice, cayenne pepper, and with water. And I will do the master cleanse for 10 days. So that's 10 days of no food at all. I just drink that. And because it's to give my digestive system a rest, so I'll do it for 10 days, and then I'll slowly ease back into my eating.
That's a lot of discipline. Yeah. But that's Ivis, eh? As in, that's what Ivis uses. But Ivis, thank you so very much for sharing with us, you and Perry. And so all these things are basically habits. And I remember Sonia saying to me, I just completed reading the book Atomic Habits. It's like, what is Atomic Habits? And then I had a look at it, and I thought, could you give us a 5-minute presentation on Atomic Habits? Because whatever we do, it's basically we want to form habits.
Good evening, everyone. So a few months ago, I wrote a short feature in the Creek Connect about how to build a reading habit. So today I'm going to talk a bit more about the book Atomic Habits, which for me was really an exciting read earlier this year. It's written by James Clear, and I wanted to share how some of the ideas from that book could help us live out the Seventh-day Adventist health message. So let me start with a quick question. How many of you have ever set a health goal, whether it's related to eating better, exercising, sleeping earlier, only to fall off after a few weeks? Yeah, so we've all had that experience, and you're not alone. We've all been there, and that's exactly why understanding habits and how to form habits, form good habits, or eliminate bad habits is so powerful. So the title of the book, Atomic Habits, comes from the atom, which is something very, very small but full of power. In the same way, small daily changes can give you really big and remarkable remarks. If you think about compounding in finance, a beginner investor doesn't have to have a lot of money. They don't have to start with millions. Just a little invested consistently can grow into something really life-changing. For example, if you were to invest $1 a day, about the cost of a pack of chewing gum, and you earned an 8% return, you know, after a good bit of time, after 40 years, you'd have over $100,000. So that's not because you saved a fortune, it's just because compounding did the heavy work. And the same principle applies to health. If you're new to exercise, you don't want to follow a bodybuilder's workout. That would just leave you discouraged or probably even injured. Instead, start small. Just a few minutes of walking, stretching, or strength training, and over time, you'll not only get stronger, but you'll also protect your mobility, your energy, and your independence into your 70s, 80s, and beyond. I heard a story on I think it was in my car, it must have been on 1010 radio or something, and it was appalling. And it's part of the reason why also I've been focusing on an exercise habit. There was a person in the US, an older person who got stuck on their toilet. They didn't have the leg strength to get up, and they were stuck on their toilet for 3 days. Eventually, they managed to get themselves onto the ground and crawl into another room and call for help. So that's a cautionary tale for all of us. I have been working on building a exercise habit since, I would say, March 2024. I would say I've exercised most days, so that would be at least 5 days a week. And that's even when I go on vacation. I went to Barbados for 8 days. I exercised 6 out of the 8 days. But I think the key is starting small. So when I started out, I said, listen, doesn't matter how busy you are, anybody can find 10 minutes. Just do a 10-minute workout or put on your shoes and walk around the block. So even when you don't feel like doing it, because you said, okay, my baseline is something small, even when you don't feel like doing it, it's like, well, hey, if you don't want to do 10 minutes, you really don't want to do it. And then you find when you get out there, well, 10 minutes isn't enough, right? So sometimes you're limited by time. Sometimes, you know, the sun is going to set, you got to get back in, or you got to get to work. But I would say most days I'm doing about 15 minutes now, and it's been a great habit. Let's go on to the next slide. Oh, great. Okay, so this is a slide that came from the book, and James Clear calls this the plateau of latent potential. So what I liked about this is you see that straight line, that's the way we want it to work. We want everything to be linear, but it doesn't really work like that. And if you look at that red line down below, that's more realistic. So somewhere in between the green line and the red line is where people give up. Right? That's the valley of disappointment, because you're like, I'm working so hard and I haven't lost any weight. I'm working so hard and, you know, I still can't lift 25 pounds. I'm still stuck at 10 pounds, and you give up. But all of that effort that you're really putting in is not being lost, it's being stored. It's like an ice cube. You put an ice cube in a cold room, and it's just sitting there. It's looking like it's never gonna melt. Then all of a sudden, that stored potential, you look and you've got a puddle of water. So that is, if anyone who's working on a goal in any health area, if you're starting to get discouraged and you feel like, oh, I'm working so hard and not getting the result, just keep going. So now I'll share a few, 3 quick points from the book about how to build habits that last. Okay, so the first one is find your why. And I heard a great why from Sister Ivis just a few minutes ago. And your why needs to be big enough that you're going to keep going even when your motivation starts to run low. And I know I'm running over time, but I'd love to share this thing I heard on a podcast. And she was talking about how people struggle with their exercise habits, and you can't do it because like I said, you wake up, it's dark, so I can't go outside to walk. And when I get home from work, I got to make dinner, or I have to drop my child this place, or my aging parent needs something. You can find all these reasons why you can't do it. But if someone came to you and said, Jewel, if you exercise every day for the next 90 days, I am going to give you $1 million. Well, all of a sudden, it being dark outside doesn't matter. Dropping your child to soccer practice, who cares? Dinner? They can cook for themselves. You're gonna find a way to walk, or you're gonna say, you know what? I can eat quickly at my desk, and then I can go walk at lunchtime. You will find a way to meet your exercise goal if your why is big enough. If you're gonna have that $1 million, if you don't wanna be that guy stuck on the toilet for 3 days, if you wanna be able to play with your grandchildren, you don't wanna be in a wheelchair, right? So having that important why is gonna keep you going. Secondly, focus on shaping your identity. Instead of looking at outcomes or processes, instead of saying, I'm gonna walk 3 days a week, think instead, I am someone who cares for the body that God gave me. If I care about the body that God gave me, then these are the things that I would naturally do to support that identity. And then third, getting back to, what we just saw, the Valley of Disappointment, give it time. Compounding takes patience. Even if the results aren't visible right away, your effort isn't wasted. Each step is like a deposit in your health account. And finally, my favorite text, Galatians 6 and verse 9, reminds us, let us not grow weary while doing good. For in due season, we shall reap if we do not lose heart. So start small, stay consistent, and trust the compounding power of daily faithfulness in your health and in your walk with God.
That was really good, Sonia. Thank you so much, Sonia. So we've spent all day here. We need to bring the curtains down. We had an activity for you to do, but we're just going to ask you to write one health goal that's related to food. Is it that you want to reduce the amount of sugar you're eating? Do you want to go plant-based you want to give it a try, or you want to go meatless Monday, or you want to be like Perry and, not eat after 6. So write one health goal, or health ministry team are going to give you sticky pads. Keep it with you because we want to come back and bring those health goals, and we're going to have a conversation circle on were you able to implement your health goal. Think about the 3 things that Sonia said. Find the why that makes you cry, or your why that is really huge. What was the second one? Shape. And the third one I remember, the second one, shape your identity. What do you want to be? And then give it some time. And this, give it some time. I always think about if you're trying to open something and you're turning it and it's not opening, eventually it opens. And, compounding, apparently they say it's one of the 8 laws, the 8 wonders of the world. So just write one health goal. Keep it simple, because if we have too many, what's going to happen is that you feel overwhelmed. And I can tell you, health behaviors, they build on each other. If it is that you are eating the way you feel you need to eat, you're going to start doing the other health behaviors. So I think we can close off our broadcast here for now. And for the people online, please do get a sticky pad and write your health goal. And track it. Macarius, can you show me the calendar, please? While we share those out. So, what counts gets counted. It's there. So this is one that I had done at Parkdale. We looked at the 8 laws of health. And the one that I committed to was to sleep at 9 every night. So I was tracking during the month of July the times that I was going into bed, what was happening. And so you must track what is it you're doing. So if you can keep something like this. You can also do a video diary where you document how you're working towards achieving your goals. So you do have pen and paper, and I'm going to hand it now over to Beverly. We're going to bring the curtains down on our Health Ministries weekend for 2025, but it doesn't mean that we're bringing it down on health. Hopefully, this is a start towards us working collaboratively to continue to do what God wants us to do.
Thank you, Sister Jewel Bailey. This is kind of nerve-wracking. I've never done anything like this before. Okay. All right, what can I say? So I guess it's